Absolutely. So now we're in the actual chalk talk portion of our interview. Hrag is going
hmm
to be broken into four quarters since we are in sports and entertainment. Jumping right into it, we're going to jump into quarter one preseason. So we'll just have you start off with a brief introduction, your name, where you're from, where you work, and then what one aspect of sports do you appreciate the most?
My name is Hrag Yazijian. I'm from Los Angeles, California, and I work at UCLA Recreation within competitive sports. So that's running a club sport athletic department with 54 club teams and running all intramural recreational sports. I also manage the sports marketing part, so doing all of our marketing on campus as well as on social. An aspect that I kind of appreciate the most in sports and for my job specifically, I think is just seeing that what I do has an impact on all aspects of what we do. So that I have a real working role and I'm not just sitting there crunching numbers all day. Like I'm out going, running things from the social media standpoint, running a team, managing, and really seeing and setting the bar high and setting those goals and then hitting those goals. That's something that I really enjoy about sports because it's constantly changing and you can always do something to make it better.
To your point about how sports can be that bridge and that connector where you can always advance and grow. Going back into your high school and college careers, how did like sports initially have an impact on you and your career? So when you were younger, what did you initially want to do? And then did you spend your time more watching or did you spend more time playing? And then after all that experience and growing up in sports, what or who gave you your first break into the sports industry?
Yeah, so when I was younger, I legit wanted to be everything. So if I could, I would have been a scientist. I would have been a personal trainer. I would have been an athletic coach. I would have done everything. I think at one point I wanted to be like a professor too. So, I wanted to do everything when I was younger. I didn't really figure out what I truly wanted, but I knew that at the core, I wanted to do something revolved around athletics, no matter what, because that was a big part of my life. I definitely have played way more sports than I've watched. I guess I'm like old school in that regard. Like I've played every sport almost, and I've tried a lot of different ones. But when I was young, I legitimately played basketball 7 days a week. That's like what me and my friends did. I know nowadays a little bit different, and then who gave me my first real break in the sports world? I would say Sam Renault, the guy that's kind of helping put all this together, that's making this stuff. He was my kind of mentor in graduate school. He kind of put me on. I think he noticed that, I had a lot of passion for what I was doing and I was willing to work hard. He helped open a lot of doors for me. He actually gave me the last spot in the program because I had initially come in a different major and I saw this major when I was in graduate school and I was like, I gotta go for it. I told him I applied. He called me. I interviewed my butt off and I guess he gave me that last spot. So I think he would be the guy that got me into the sports world.
That hard work obviously paid off because you are in a really pretty good role with UCLA now. So what are two aspects of your job that are most satisfying? And then what is that one skill that has helped you like cultivate your career and sustain this career and this level of professionalism in sports?
Yeah, so if one of your students shadowed me, they'd see me managing a lot. So me and my coworker, we have a staff of 120 plus. So that's referees, that's sports marketing people. But specifically for sports marketing, I would be, running meetings, running different types of workshops for our employees. So we have beat writers, we have graphic designers that make the stuff for us. So really planning. Actually, if they shadowed me today, they would probably be seeing how I'll be working with two of my writers on running a podcast. So we're going to start doing like a sports business podcast because we don't have a sports business association at UCLA. So they would see me managing a lot. Which two aspects of my job are the most satisfying? I would say the first part is just being in a position where I can help others that are, younger than me, especially students, because I was them. So that's satisfying to me because I was a UCLA student after I graduated from junior college, but giving them the skills to get better because they're all really, great academically, but they need more job skills. So that gives me a lot of a lot of happiness in that regard. Another part that's satisfying, I get to work with a lot of different people. So I think I've talked about it. I've met people in different industries, and I get to go. And if I have a project that I need done, I can call them and be like, "Hey, man, are you interested in coming to UCLA? If there's anybody that would like to be on a panel, would like to be on a podcast, like I have people that have come to sporting events that I've met. That's satisfying to me too." And then what skills help me have success in working in the sports industry? That I just trust my gut. I learned kind of early on that I didn't have time to overanalyze the decision. Usually the decision that comes first and you feel the most strongly about is usually the correct one. So I just stick with my gut.
So, ending off with some great advice for our high school students. If you could go back and tell your high school self one piece of advice, what would you tell yourself? And then after attending this event, what's the next step that a high school student should take to eventually be in your position one day?
If I could go back and give my high school self one piece of advice about being a pro, I think the biggest thing I would say is to be prepared. And a lot of people act like they're prepared, but they don't really truly know what that means. And I think this is circling back to kind of what I was talking about being prepared in interviews. The biggest thing to understand about being prepared is that if you truly want something, if you want a job, or if you want to be in a specific area, you need to dedicate your time and your life to that. You can't just wake up in the morning, not have a plan of how you're going to attack that job. You need to have a structured plan of what you're going to do, and you need to, give it your all. And if you're not prepared, it's going to show. There's nothing worse that you can do than being unprepared. So you got to go into a situation, like I said, with a portfolio. You got to go into those situations ready to know what you're talking about. You got to, wake up in the morning and you got to know, I got to be at X place at this time. I got to be there early, because when all those things line up, doors open for you. And if they're not lining up, you're going to start hitting roadblocks. So the thing that you want most has to truly be that. Because if it's not what you want most, you won't take all those steps to get there. After attending this camp, what's the one thing a student could take to prepare? Take my job. I think the biggest thing, if you want to take my job, you got to kind of learn how to be a leader. For my area in sports management, but also specifically in sports marketing, you have to really have a vision. And that's something that leaders all have. They have a vision of what they want, and they have a vision of what they want to achieve. And so if you're interested in marketing, that's big. You got to have a vision so that you can go and you can think in your mind, okay, this is a cool idea that, I've always wanted to see in sports, but nobody's ever done it. And you got to believe in that so hard that any person that doesn't believe in it believes you after talking to you. Like, they got to feel like you're passionate in that project. So that's one thing you got to have. You got to be a leader. You got to have vision.
Well, with that insight, I don't think anyone's taking your job anytime soon. So I think you're safe in that aspect of things. But Hrag, I want to thank you again for joining us on our Chalk Talk. It was definitely a pleasure to hear your insight. And I know the high school students are really going to enjoy this. So high school students, campers, just stay on the lookout for more content we have coming soon. And definitely reach out to Hrag and ask some questions if you have any. Thank you, guys. Peace.
Thanks, Christian.